the silver lining of Drupal to WordPress migrations. Now, I am Dan Stout, and you may already know who I am. I my last position, I worked at Circle, where I built over 40 WordPress websites. And earlier this year, I joined Bruker, which is a maker of high-end scientific equipment. And previously, I worked at UW Extension, where I did Drupal full-time. That was about a decade ago. I did Drupal full-time for about 4 years. And so I've been at Bruker the last 7 months. Basically what happened was last year, they bought a company called Inscofix. And Inscofix makes neuroscience microscopes for neuroscience. And they're based in Silicon Valley, and they had outsourced their website development and management to India. And so they had a team of Indian developers who developed their website in Drupal. That was their chosen platform. And then when I started 7 months ago, there was basically just one developer who was still supporting the site. There was just one guy sitting somewhere by a computer supporting the website. And if we wanted anything done on the website, you had to kind of email him or do a, he could do video chat. You could talk to him and have a request. But when I started, they said, oh yeah, our contract with this Indian developer is ending in a couple months. And we see here on your resume that you have Drupal. So why don't you maintain this site? So I'm like, okay. And at this point, it's been about 8 years since I've looked at Drupal. So I was like, okay, well, we'll do that. But what I quickly thought was, well, if I'm going to be supporting the site, and in fact, this Indian developer is going away, then I don't really want to support Drupal, because I did Drupal and, I kind of made the migration to WordPress myself. And, that was my preferred platform. I'll do Drupal, but WordPress was my preferred platform. So I said, I made a proposal, but I didn't have a plan. My proposal was, let's migrate this Drupal website to WordPress. And I had not, I'd worked on Drupal and I'd worked on WordPress, but I hadn't really done a migration like that. So I had a proposal, but not a plan. And when I looked at this Drupal site, it looked pretty standard. It had about, 30, 40 pages, and there was some blog posts and some other things, a number of web forms. I thought, well, maybe this will take a month. And let me just show you the site. And so this is in Scofix.com. And there's some videos, and so this is the website. They do neuroscience, and I thought this is going to take me a month. This will, I'll pad in a little bit of time, and we'll call it a month. And I looked up into solutions on how to do this, and I thought, well, there's a plugin for just like importing Drupal into WordPress. I think I'll try that. So there's I Googled this and I found a plugin. It's called FG Drupal to WordPress by this guy Frederick Giles. And there's a free version on WordPress.org. But I thought, well, I'm probably going to need the paid version. There's a paid version of his plugin. And so I went and I purchased his plugin. And the way it works is you install it into WordPress, and then you just have a copy of the Drupal you have a copy of the Drupal database, like accessible to WordPress, somewhere on like the same MySQL server, just another database. And so you just tell the plugin in WordPress where the Drupal database is, and then it just tries to import it. And the funny thing about this plugin, so it's like, it was 40 euros, and it's like, well, that's affordable. We can afford that. But then what I discovered when I tried to import it is like, so he's got these add-ons, and then like, what you find is there's like not just a few add-ons, but they're, they range in price from like 15 to 80 euros. And so when I tried to run the import, it's like, oh, you need this add-on, and 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 it was 4 or 5 add-ons.
Mhm.
And so it was like, oh, okay. So I'm like, okay, we've got the budget. We'll import these add-ons. We'll buy these add-ons and just run the import again. And so I ran the import, and it worked. I mean, it imported everything into WordPress. And that's when I kind of discovered this wasn't like a vanilla Drupal installation.
Oh.
And it was a lot messier. So what I discovered was in Drupal, let's see here if I can show this. Can you see that pop-up menu? Let's see. Well, let me just click on that. Oh, let's see here. Here we go.
Types. Yeah.
So content types. So what they did. So you'll see that there's
Oh no.
a few custom content types in this.
Just a few.
There's
Just a handful. One for each page.
Just about, yeah,
Okay.
basically, yeah. There's like over 40 custom content types in here, and yeah, that did not import into WordPress very well. I mean, it was like WordPress was just a mess. And so what I found was in these content types, so if we look at a blog post, if we say manage fields, we'll find that there's like a lot of fields. Like this is a blog post, and these are all the fields just for a blog post.
Yeah.
And you'll find that there's like first description and primary description and quote description and secondary description. And so the way all these content types were set up was like each one had like a gazillion fields. And like what I was doing when I was supporting the site is like it was so locked down, like every paragraph has like a specific field. And the CSS is so specific that if you try to add a paragraph on like a page, it's not going to inherit the styling because the styling is so specific. So if you try to add anything, so it's very locked down. Let me just show you what this looks like in practice. If we look at the content and we look at, say, a product.
Was it using Drupal layouts or anything? Like was it using a page builder, or was it just a straight?
Well, they just had straight,
UI?
yeah, they just had
Like
so
just like
had,
fields.
So they just had fields, yeah. So we got the banner. So like here's like a page, and we got the overview, and there's properties, the application section, the data processing section, and there's all kind of preset settings. So what this ended up looking like in WordPress was that there was a lot of like, so one of the plugins you have to use this FG Drupal to WordPress is advanced custom fields. And they do require the paid version of that. So advanced custom fields plugin, which is now owned by WP Engine. So they're kind of keeping this developed. So I feel good about that. And, that there's a kind of a company behind it now and keeping advanced custom fields going. So what the plugin did in WordPress was it created all these custom content types, and then it created custom fields for all the custom fields in Drupal. And so there's nothing that corresponded with like a content type in WordPress. What you'd have to do essentially would be come up with like a custom if you wanted to use that imported data, you'd have to come up with like 40 custom templates.
Yep. Oh.
And the data didn't really import correctly either. It was like, like images were just, you just got the link to the image, without the, I don't know. It was
and it was probably the node URL instead of the.
Yeah, it was just not a clean import. So I think that plugin is probably, it did what it is supposed to do. I think if you had like a vanilla Drupal installation, FG Drupal to WordPress plugin would probably work pretty well. But in this case, no go. So that was my first attempt. I blew some time trying to figure that out. And eventually I just said, I just got to delete all these custom content types. I just got to delete all this data. Now, I did get some media imported with it. So I did leave the media that it imported in WordPress's media, which helped me out a little bit. So the second attempt I tried to make it importing this was I used in Drupal. There's a module called Content Export CSV. That sounds reasonable. Content Export CSV. You're just gonna export nodes to CSV file, and I was just planning on importing a CSV. I thought, well, I thought if I could use a CSV, I could maybe set up I probably didn't need that many custom content types, but I could just import a CSV into WordPress. So when you enable that plugin, it puts it over here on the content menu, and it says content export. Is that legible? Should I blow that up a little bit? So content export. So you can take a content type and export it into a CSV. Now you'll see there's lots of content types. So let's say we want to take the blog content type. Then it says, okay, you got all these fields. Do you want to export all these fields? It's like, wow, okay, we'll just export them all, and then we'll just export published data. Include node URLs. Well, we'll just ignore that. So then you can export. Long story short, this didn't work either. So, so the problem with this one was this is called Content Export CSV, and the problem with this one is it didn't resolve node references. So, like in some cases where there was like an image like that was held in like an external field or like a field elsewhere, it would just provide the reference to the node rather than like the actual data in the field. So there's as you can see, there's like really no configuration. So there was no way to resolve those unresolved fields. So
is this the point where you started like doing the calculation? If I just hit Control C and then open up another page in WordPress and hit Control V, how much time?
How long will it take me?
So that anticipates very nicely the next part, which is where I'm like, I gotta make some progress on this. I gotta get some of this done. Now there's a couple parts on this website that there's like 160 blog posts, which I'm not going to copy and paste. And there's 280. They have scientific publications. They have like the abstracts.
Yeah, the posters and stuff.
So they have like 280 publication citations that use their microscopes. So they have like abstracts and like the authors and the article, the scientific article title. And so those have, and the blog posts and the scientific articles all have custom search engines as well. And they told me that the publications was really important to them, that they wanted being able to search those publications was really important. So I'm just like, I got to make progress on this. So what I started doing, so there's about 35 pages, like kind of like static pages on the website. It's not a ton of stuff. And so what I started doing was unfortunately it wasn't as easy as copy and paste. I just started recreating all of these pages. I just had two screens. I had one open in Drupal, one open in WordPress, and I just started like recreating 30 pages, which in that case, that site was so locked down, the fields were so specific that and each one had a different content type. In that case, those pages, it ended up being faster just to copy them, just to make a recreation of the website. So that's what I did. Yeah. And so we have all these different pages.
Also a good time to look at the analytics and see what's not being looked at. So you don't have to migrate it.
Right. Well, this was a whole site migration. This was we're just going to do it all. I just did it all. Yeah. Yeah. And so what I did was I saved the hardest parts for last. I'm like, part of this was like, it's a new job. I haven't done Drupal in a long time. I don't know this Drupal site at all. So in doing these pages, moving them over, it gave me time to learn. I was still I was still doing my full time. This was like, I felt like I was doing two jobs at this point, because I was doing like everything else that I had to do for my job, plus doing this migration. And I was still surprised at how many changes they had for the Drupal site while I was working on it.
Oh no.
So I got to learn the Drupal site really well. And I
Mhm.
was like saving the hard part for last, which is the blogs and the blog posts and the publications. And so the publication, so I thought, well, I just got to dig in. So I got all the static pages moved over. That took, you know, a few weeks to do, and then I'm like, well, I got to tackle these publications. And so I found another module, another plugin for Drupal. I got to find, you know, I knew I had to find a better one than the content export CSV. And this one is called Views Data Export.
Oh yeah.
And so what you can, so what Views is in Drupal is it's just a way to like pull data from the database. And like it's kind of like a query, it's kind of like a query builder, and you can use it to put data on the website, or, you know, I'm sure you may have heard, I don't know how familiar you all are with Drupal, but Views is very powerful, and it allows you to do kind of custom queries, and it, allows you to slice and dice your data. And it's kind of a powerful, really powerful feature of Drupal. So I thought Views Data Export. So I was like, well, it can do, if we look here, it does CSV, it can export, into other formats, XML. So that has ended up what I ended up going with. So let me just show this. So if you go under views, and we have a number of views. So okay, so I created my custom views, DRS publications content export, to make sure I could find it easily. And so if we look at that,
Robert.
What's that?
Is your middle name Robert?
Nope.
Okay.
It's Ray.
Okay.
That was my grandfather's name. Yeah. So
Thank
Daniel
you.
Ray Stout. Yeah. So the first thing you have to do, you'll have you'll have to create a display, and so you'll add a display, and that plugin adds a data export. And so if you create a data export, then it uses that plugin, and you can export into different formats. So the format, I selected a CSV, and I just added all the fields because I wasn't exactly sure what I needed. And so I'm just going to export everything from that content type. And it's a whole lot of bundle of fun. Yeah. So so then it exports into a CSV, and I realized I had a problem. There's a global setting for scrub HTML from the exported fields, but I realized I needed HTML for like my blog post content, but I didn't need the HTML tags for like the title tags, or for like the title field. And it was exporting, so I could either export HTML for everything or not everything.
Oh.
So I ended up having to do kind of two exports. So I did one with HTML enabled, and one export with HTML, with all HTML tags scrubbed. And then I took the CSV that had the HTML tags and copied over the title. So I had 180 fields in the CSV file. I imported it into Excel, and then I copied all the title fields that didn't have HTML, because I didn't want HTML in the title field, and also the author field. Then the rest I left. So I had to import it twice. So I had to export it twice. And then I found this plugin for WordPress called WP All Import.
Yeah, this is a good one.
And this is a really super duper good plugin. And you can export an XML or a CSV. And because I was importing into advanced custom fields, I had to purchase it. If you want to import into advanced custom fields, there's a paid version of it. WPAllImport.com. And if you upgrade, then there's a version that let's see, yeah, that lets you use ACF, advanced custom fields. So I was importing into advanced custom fields. So I got all that data exported, and let's see here. So I got WordPress. So I went into advanced custom fields, and like the publication fields, let's take a look at that. So then I have some advanced, so in
This is
the
a
end,
reasonable number of fields for a
it's a
post.
reasonable number of fields. Yeah. So isn't that funny how you go from like this funnel going like, so that's a reason. So what I needed was the abstract, the authors, the URL, the publication name, and an image. So I have a custom type, and it's got a couple of taxonomies. One is just the categories. There's different categories that they use, and I just went with this was pretty easy to set up in advanced custom fields. I mean, it was pretty intuitive. I didn't really do any deep diving on advanced custom fields. This was pretty easy to set up. And I had it so it displays over here in the left-hand menu, you can see publications, and it shows the taxonomies that I created here as well, which are essentially just categories. So like the publication categories, these include the type of animal, the type of publication, the brain region. These are all kind of, each article has these as metadata fields. And so the publications were just a custom content type. And let me just show you what that looks like. And so I didn't use like the Gutenberg kind of interface. I just created a custom field with the abstract is just going to be like a paragraph of information. So I just went with kind of a standard text field. And so there's not a lot to it really. There's some publication categories. And so by using WP all import, let me just show you how this looks. If we say use a custom existing file, and so you can select what you want to import into, and I just selected it into my publications content type. And this is, I had uploaded the CSV file, and then it'll show you your data and kind of like how it's reading it. And so this took a few tries to get correct. But it's showing you, basically you can look at any record in this. Oops. You can look at any record and just see if the data is, if the fields are lining up.
That's nice to do like a spot check or.
Yeah. And then I told it I was doing the publications. So if I look at the advanced custom field, I can activate the publication fields like the abstract, and so I can just bring like the body. I can just bring the body over here. Let's see here.
I feel like sometimes you have to click and hold it for some reason. There you go.
There we go. So
nice.
then you just drag the fields over and you just map them kind of manually. It's pretty slick. It worked. It was actually once I got all the data kind of massaged, like the HTML fields and the non-HTML fields and all that. Once I got that massaged, it went in pretty good, and I didn't have to do a lot of cleanup after the fact. I mean, that was the good thing. I mean, it imported pretty cleanly. So I had these publications. So then I had to create. So then I should probably talk about the theme I was using, which was called Astra, which is a very popular theme. And I was not really familiar with Astra, and somebody else at my work had used it for another project, and I kind of inherited that site, and I had started using Astra, and I thought it was fairly vanilla. Like it's fairly powerful, but fairly vanilla. So it kind of enables you to make the site. It's not too opinionated, so it allows you to make the site you want to do. So that really helped me in making the site look a lot like, as much as possible, like the Drupal site, because it had a lot of flexibility. to make the kind of things that I wanted to do. And I was determined to use Gutenberg. I wasn't going to use Elementor. I feel like my knock on Elementor, you know, like no offense, but my knock on Elementor is
No
like
offense, going to be taken ever when you knock Elementor.
sure, is like once you build an Elementor, you're kind of stuck with it. I mean, it's like it doesn't, you know. I wanted to build in Gutenberg because I felt like that was like what is WordPress, and so I felt like, you know, if we had to change things later, it would be easier to swap thing, you know, a theme out, or if we had to change things up later, if we're using WordPress's built-in functionality as much as possible, then that's what I wanted to go with. Now Astra comes with, they have like a block, it's kind of like a block library, but they call it kind of a page builder, but it's more like a block library called Spectra. And what I'd found with this other project I'd worked on was Spectra, like the blocks were like really high quality. Because I've seen like some block libraries that are like, that cause more problems than they solve. Like they don't work with other block libraries, or they aren't well implemented. Where Spectra I found were really nicely done, and also that they recreate some built-in blocks like headings, and you know, they built like headings and like images, but they make them, they do like a heading block, but they offer more design capabilities. So that was one area where I ended up going with Spectra blocks in WordPress rather than the built-in like heading. I used the Spectra heading block because it had more design capabilities. So Astra ended up being a really good platform to build on, and Astra plus Spectra. And then what I had to do, so let me just show you this publications page. So under the resources menu, so the publications page is largely dynamically generated. So we have some publications here that are highlighted. And then we have kind of the search engine stuff where you can search the publications, or you can drill down by the metadata. You can look at, you know, if you just want to see our articles on the brain cortex, you can actually just click on that and narrow down to articles on that. And then we have a list of the most recent articles. And then over on the right, we have a list of upcoming, like this is like the bioRxiv Wire is a list of upcoming articles. So this is all dynamically generated. And then let me just show you what one of these looks like. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Let's see here. Okay, well, maybe, yeah, here I'll search for cortex. So what I did to display the actual citation for the article was in this case, I did create a custom template because we had specialized fields. We had the authors, we had the publication, and the link to the article in the abstract. So I did end up creating a custom template just for these. And so once I got that done, it ended up being pretty good. Now, in the time that I started this project, they had Spectra, and after I had started this project, they launched Spectra Pro, and so we upgraded our subscription. We had Astra Pro, and then we added on Spectra Pro. So we upgraded our subscription, and the reason for that was because with Spectra Pro, they have basically a block that's a loop builder. Now you can do a loop builder in PHP, but this allows you to do it all in Gutenberg. And so what I did with these was I just used Spectra's loop builder, and I can show you what that looks like. And so it allows you to slice and dice. You know, it's kind of like a view. You know, in some respects, it's almost like a view in Drupal. It allows you to query the database and show content that you want to do. So let's see here, that you want to pull. So like this page, the publications page, and it takes it a little while to learn, and it doesn't quite display quite correctly in Gutenberg actually, but the loop builder, just let's see here. So it allows you to say how many posts per page, and there's several different templates that you can use on how it displays them, whether you want like an image to the left or an image above, or there's different ways to slice and dice it, and quite a bit of customization that you can do. So the loop builder ended up being really handy. We used it for I used it for the publications page, and I also used it for the blog page. The blogs ended up being a lot easier to import because I was able to leverage the built-in types. So the blog posts I just loaded into posts, and then I just if I show you this, so the blog field. So I just used the built-in posts for WordPress, and then just added some fields, added some additional fields that were part of that. And the way because in Drupal, like there was like 6 or 7 fields that made up the content of a blog post. So WP all import allowed me to list all like 6 fields in the right order, and just import it all in one go into like one big content, one big smear of content, rather than having all these separate fields. So that ended up being good. There's also, we had 17 custom forms on this site as well. Those are all coming from HubSpot. I initially used Ninja Forms because Ninja Forms has a HubSpot plugin. So we tried that, and the Ninja Forms HubSpot plugin was not very good. So I ended up using HubSpot's first-party WordPress plugin, and that allows us to pull the forms directly from HubSpot. So the forms were pulled in directly from HubSpot. And then for the custom search engines, basically, I needed a search engine that could search the custom fields for advanced custom fields. So I needed something that could handle custom content types. So there's some search engines that can only do the atomic WordPress, content types like posts and pages. And then there's, search engines that can handle custom content types. So I used a plugin called Search WP, and I can show you. So it allows you to set up like separate engines. And so like I set up an engine just for the publications, and then you can pull in these custom fields. Let me just, so you can pull in the custom fields, and then you can weight those fields. So I wanted the abstract to be more important, the title to be more important, and the publication name wasn't that important. So you can pull in all those custom fields and weight them how the search engine works.
Nice.
So then that.
Is that a free one, or is it?
So that's paid, yeah. So that's a paid plugin, yeah. And I found that there are multiple options though. There are some free options. This one did what I wanted it to do, but yeah, so there was some cost involved in this migration, advanced custom fields, and there was WP all import, and and there was kind of the rabbit hole I went down with FG Drupal to WordPress. But the silver lining of Drupal to WordPress is it all worked out in the end. And it's not easy, and it's going to look like Gollum, from Lord of the Rings, and he's going to give you a high five at the end of it. He's going to like, oh yeah, all right, yeah, my precious Drupal website, what have you done to it? But and here we go. And so we launched the site not too long ago. Actually, it ended up taking me a while, and but we got let's see here, we got the blog, and so that's pulling all these custom, this is another largely dynamically generated page that was using the loop builder from Spectra Pro, and so this gives us just an automatically a paginated view of like all the blog posts.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this was kind of a big project, and I was like, doing it solo, and this was a new job, and I didn't know like the technology, this is all neuroscience, so it's all kind of unfamiliar stuff, and it's this this Drupal site, I hadn't touched Drupal in 8 years, and this site was just, I mean, just layers of fields, and everything was so locked down, so. I was funny. So that was where I went from sheer terror to like, kind of bliss. Once I got the publications done, I was like, oh, this turned out, I mean, the project turned out far better and far closer to the Drupal site than I imagined possible. Like just even like the design, it just really looks as much as I could, like the Drupal site. And so, yeah, that's my tale. That's my tale of having gone there, having given birth to a website. It was a lot of work, and I got it done, and yeah. So thank you.
Nice.
Man, well done, Dan.
Yeah.
I hope that the folks who asked you to do this understand the lengths to which you had to go.
So I had done a presentation. So I had met the Inscofix sales team, and like I had done a presentation back a couple of months ago, just to let them know that this project was being worked on. And so because I'm new, and so I got to meet a lot of the people on the Inscofix side. A lot of them are based in Mountain View. The company is based in Silicon Valley, and so I got to meet a lot of those people, and so I felt like this is, I'm gonna sink or swim, it's like, but to me, I needed to get it done, and I felt like it was going to be a feather in my cap getting it done. Like this was going to put my name out there, like, here's this new guy, look what he did, he took our whole website and like, somehow magically turned it into WordPress. And for me, the benefit was twofold. One, I didn't want to be supporting Drupal long term. I wanted WordPress was going to be so much easier. And once I found out how locked down the Drupal site was, I was like, oh my God, I was totally right to suggest this project. And then the other part was we can have other people working at, like if we need content, if we need content maintenance, that kind of stuff, we need people to be in there trying to do, pretty much anything on the Drupal site required the developer to do any kind of changes, required the developer. And so now we have flexibility in like who can work on the website, and we can create some editors, and if we need to, if we need people to get in there, we can. And I feel comfortable that it's not going to be totally unmanageable. So I feel like WordPress is a hireable skill, and that's where I feel like kind of the silver lining is like WordPress is has delivered, and it is there's a lot of people that know WordPress where there's not so many people that know Drupal. So so I feel like it was a success in the end. It was a successful project and took a lot of work, and went down some blind alleys, and but got there in the end. Yeah. So
Nicely done.
yeah.
Yeah, well done, Dan. It's amazing.
Yeah, we've been using Astra for a few sites. Just it does have the flexibility without like forcing you into a display or a design.
Yeah, I mean it's not as feature rich as like say Elementor, but it's pretty unopinionated. So I just
I like that term.
Yeah. So it kind of lets you build the site you want to build. Yeah. And there's some built-in, there's some preset templates you can use. There's some templates you can leverage if you want certain blocks and certain layouts. You can there's some starter templates that you can use too, but I didn't use those for this project. But so hit me with questions. What do you think? What is this something you want to try? Should
Send everybody your way.
Yeah, we had an opportunity to, we had like 16 Drupal sites that we were gonna bring over into a WordPress multi-site, but it was gonna like the same thing with all the views, all
Right.
the custom post types, all the fields. And we were like, this is going to cost,
Sure.
we even underbid, and they were like, we don't have any money, but it was like $10,000 a site to move it over because of how it was built, 15 years
Right.
ago. But yeah, it's good to know we're considering, I think I've used the FG Drupal to WordPress, and
Okay.
it went poorly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think in theory it could work, but it's just, you just need a really generic, super generic site for it to import cleanly, I think. Let me see if I can bring that up. Where was that? Oh yeah, so here's the error message. So Drupal 9, let's see here, so this is Drupal 9, and we got this product done just in time. Your version of Drupal is no longer supported. Like there is, Drupal 8 is end of life, now Drupal 9 is end of life. You got to go to Drupal 10.
Mm-hmm.
So we got this done just in the nick of time. So yeah, but so Drupal 9 is officially done. Now, like on Drupal, you can install this upgrade status plugin, which tells you whether you can upgrade. And I took a look at this, and it's like it was kind of like saying, well, no, you can't really upgrade. I don't know. You just
Oh, it shows you compatible modules.
it's compatibility for
Wow.
Drupal 10, and this was like, yeah, not really. So so we got this done kind of like just at the right time, and yeah, because now everything's going to Drupal 10. The funny thing is Drupal 7 is still supported until like 2025. Like there was all these people, like Drupal 7 was what was around when I got started on Drupal, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And there's still there's all these people that started with Drupal 7 and like never made it to Drupal 8. And so there's Drupal 8 and Drupal 9 are done, but Drupal 7 is still being supported until 2025. So I think there's going to be more people wanting migration projects. So
Because 8 and 9 use Symfony, which is why that's end of lifing, but 7 did not.
Right. Yeah. Drupal 8 was kind of an architecture change. They made significant changes to how, like the templating and everything in Drupal. But
yeah, you should seek out some Drupal 7 people to migrate, Nate. That's your next money bag.
Nah, I'm gonna do less stressful stuff.
Yeah.
I'll leave it to Dan, the professional.
Yeah, right. But it's true if you want, there's money in that. I mean, like there's money
For sure.
for like, Drupal is kind of like a specialized skill, and like there's all these companies that are kind of like, they're hanging on by they have all these sites that are kind of hanging on. But now like the UW, they already made the switch kind of from Drupal to WordPress. They've kind of standardized on WordPress some years ago, like at the UW. But there's a lot of universities that are still using a lot of Drupal. Even like MATC, Madison College uses Drupal quite a bit. So there even just in the local area, there's some Drupal work to be had. But yeah, so that's my tale.
Pretty cool. Do you think do you think that it's so custom, especially with this site, but in general, like Drupal migrations are so custom that it's really not possible to automate them?
That's where that plugin kind of comes short, I think, is like they're just it's so customized. The problem I see with Drupal is like it's got a lot of power, but it doesn't give you guardrails. Like it doesn't encourage you to do things well. So if you don't know how to do things well, you can do things that get things done, but not necessarily in a clean or good way, or like in a way that's upgradable. And that's why so many sites got lodged at Drupal 7, is like like, you know, they were implemented in such a way that it's really hard to upgrade them to the next version of Drupal, because the way Drupal works is the releases are very monolithic, and like going from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8 is like a big upgrade, and there's like a lot of breaking changes and stuff. And so if you customize the system a lot, it's just going to be a real nightmare to upgrade. So that's where it's almost easier to go to like WordPress rather than trying to upgrade it within Drupal. So
yeah. So does Drupal not have the don't hack core mantra, and like is there like a way to like do like hooks and filters and stuff?
They do, yeah. I mean, they do. They actually have a module called Hacked that allows you to check to see on a Drupal installation. It allows you to check whether the Drupal core has been modified. Yeah, I don't know. But it's like even if you don't customize Drupal itself, it's like it's so customizable, and it's so you can get so deep in the weeds that it's like, you know, it's just yeah, I don't know. It's just hard to unravel. Yeah, it's a lot of power, but you know, with great power comes no, anyway, but
something
yeah. Yeah, so that's where I feel like WordPress, I mean, it's, you know, you kind of have to use advanced custom fields if you want custom content types. You know, if you want that additional content management system feel and to do a lot of custom types, you need a plugin to do it, or something, you know, something to add on. But it does kind of steer you in the right direction generally, and it does kind of, you know, the limitations are maybe judicious in the sense that they kind of steer you in the right direction of doing things well. And you know, I feel like I've had a lot of success with going into you know, unfamiliar WordPress sites. You can get up to speed with them a lot faster, where you get into a Drupal site like this, and it's like, I mean, it took me a while to unravel this one. I mean, it was just like, you know, not only are there 40 custom content types, there's like 60 custom paragraph types. And, you know, I mean, it's just, you just start going down the rabbit hole, and it's like, oh my God, like how, you know, to me, like every decision that was made on this Drupal site was made, whether by conscious choice or inadvertently, every choice kind of like ensured job security. You know what I mean? It's like doing like anything on this site required a developer to like, you know, do something. So yeah, but
Yeah, I do not want to be in the business of changing content for people.
yeah, especially with like the CSS being like so specific, like anytime you'd add something, you'd have to like rewrite the CSS. I mean, even just like a paragraph, it's like, yeah, it's just, yeah, it was a bear, but so.
Do the folks at your company enter content directly into the system? Have they expressed gratitude for the WordPress instead of Drupal, or?
Yeah, not yet. So I'm still kind of the sole owner of the site. So we'll probably get into that. Yeah. But yeah,
Now that they're able to.
For me, for supporting it, like whether we add, you know, if we're adding content people, I think it'll be a lot easier for them. But you know, because right now we, you know, they pretty much can't, you know, everything had to go through the Indian developer right now, and the marketing manager was having to go through, she was going through a third-party consultant because she didn't like talking to the Indian guy. So she would go through this third-party consultant. The third-party consultant would talk to the Indian guy. The Indian guy would get back to him. He would get back to her. It was like this whole telephone chain. Yeah. So that's all eliminated now. So yeah. So it'll be much easier to support, and you know, yeah.
Good.
WordPress for the win. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
But, yeah.
Well, thank you for doing all that and sharing it with us.
Mm.
Yeah. For those watching later, if we distribute, I don't want to organize a December meetup.
Right on.
So I think we'll take a break till January, if that's okay.
Sounds good. Yeah. Should we try to do an in-person in January? About time?
It'll be right around, I think that's right around the most depressing day of the year.
Yeah.
20th, 21st of January or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get
Yeah.
out and have some
That
hot
sounds good.
or tea.
Yeah, some hot bone sipping broth, tortilla soup. That sounds amazing. Cool.
All right. Thank you. I'm gonna stop recording. I guess I could have done that a little bit ago.